Hello everybody, my name is Ardub and welcome to Metanalysis, the Destiny 2 series where I talk about weapon balancing, subclass balancing, and just general gameplay information. So let's get right to it. So in today's episode of Metanalysis, I want to talk about the pulse rifles in the Destiny 2 beta. So for any of you who have experienced it, you may feel that these are a little bit powerful currently and are a bit worried because at the tail end of Destiny 1, we saw a real surge for the past year, almost 2 years, of the pulse rifles being very good, at least one archetype being very, very good. So today I want to touch on what I think about their effective range, their recoil patterns, how they handle and perform close quarters, like this is close, mid-close range, and close range, and then their damage. So first off, with the effective range, I believe they push scout rifles out of the Destiny 2 beta metagame for PvP. The reason is that anytime I'm engaging someone with a pulse rifle at the longest range I can with a scout rifle, the longest range reasonable on a PvP map where you can get an engagement, I still lose out, regardless of if I'm landing headshots or not. The scout still loses out to the pulse, and I think that is a problem that could not be addressed or didn't get addressed in Destiny 1 that needs to be addressed from this beta and moving forward into Destiny 2, because it still feels like the scout rifles don't have a place in Crucible and give you a handicap in Crucible in way more engagements than is reasonable to have. So I think the pulse rifles have a little too much effective range. They have way more range than the hand cannons, which isn't something we have to worry about. They just need a little bit more range than the hand cannons, but they have way too much range on a lot of the guns, and their stability and recoil pattern are what help cement their strength, which I'm going to be talking about right now. So the recoil pattern, one of the ones, the Nurgle pulse rifle you can get in the beta, has very good stability. It feels really good to fire, and like when you're using the gun, you feel snappy, you feel fast, but you also feel very stable on those long-range sight lines. It only takes 3 bursts to kill a Guardian still with this kind of full auto pulse rifle. So I think it's a very strong one, and I worry about the recoil pattern being slightly too easy to control at that long range. Like at mid-range, at the mid-longish, that's even pushing it. At mid-range, it should feel that way, I agree. But when you're beating out scout rifles without really having to contest with their strafing, or it doesn't really matter, you just kind of win against them from full health, it's really disheartening for the scout rifle users who want to use them, and there are some decent ones out there right now. The 2 in the beta are actually fairly decent, and they still get outperformed by this one pulse rifle. So I think the recoil at long range maybe should have a little bit of an increase, but I don't know how you'd implement that. I think more of an effective range nerf might be a better way to handle it, so that scouts have a better chance at that mid-long and long-range distance to outpace the pulse. Let's talk about handling close quarters, because it's a 3 burst and you can move the gun while you're going, so you can get the 3 bullets to hit 3 different locations. That can be pretty far apart depending on your sensitivity, how fast you swipe around to change your aim. So I think they have a little bit too strong close quarters handling because they're not supposed to be a close quarters weapon. They feel like they can contest a hand cannon at that close-ish range to be able to get the shots off and land the shots off consistently while trying to deal with the close quarters fast movement and the definite large amount of strafe you have to account for most times. So they feel a little strong handling close quarters. They should be a powerhouse in the mid-range. I have no problem with that. Autos, hand cannons, and pulses should all be near each other in that mid-ish range, with the pulses having slightly an advantage at the longer mid-range engagements than autos and hand cannons. So I feel like they have a little too much of a I guess, advantage at close quarters against these other mid-range weapons. So let's talk about the damage. I think the damage would honestly be okay if it just, again, was the damage that was done was at the appropriate range and wasn't outside of the range it might be intended or might not be intended, but it really pushes the scout rifles out. and it really pushes players to just use the pulse because it's better in more situations than, for example, a hand cannon and an auto rifle. So those are kinds of things we can look at. We could even look at changing the zoom on them so it's harder to deal with the closer range engagements with strafing and all of that. So it'd be a little harder to deal with the closer range engagements with the pulse, which would reward you for having skill, but again, could see the same problem as Destiny 1 where it was a huge pulse rifle meta and really didn't get away from that even into the end of it with the Age of Triumph. So, to quick recap, pulses I think are very good weapons right now in the Destiny 2 beta. They're a little bit too strong at long range and a little too easy to handle close range, but other than that I think they've been brought closer in line with the power level intended. A few more tweaks, again this is the beta, so hopefully we'll see some changes when the full game releases to some of these weapons or weapon archetypes. But overall I think it's been getting better, so I can only hope for improvement from there. So that's been my opinion on pulse rifles in the Destiny 2 beta. I hope you guys really enjoyed the episode. I had a lot of fun making it and getting the footage for it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Talk to me about the pulse rifles, talk to me about the footage. Tips, tricks, anything you guys want to talk about, feel free to in the comments below. I love to start up discussions and talk about the meta and the foreseeable meta, hopefully. So thank you guys again so much for watching. My name is Ardub, and I will see you next time on Metanalysis.